Hey guys, my name is Peyton Sarton. If you are new here, if you're a returning subscriber, thanks for coming back and hanging out with me. Today we're going to talk about my experience becoming a full-time blogger, kind of just a shortened version of my story, and then the ways I make money and how I got myself from point A to now. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily like a person that's made it, but I definitely like make a full-time living off of doing the blogging thing. So if you are interested in learning more about that, just keep watching. Okay, so I filmed this video last night, or I attempted to film this video last night, and I just found myself like rambling on and on, trying to share about my story and like use it as an example. But I think it's gonna be easier for y'all if I just give you a very shortened version of my story, kind of like a little timeline, and then I'll go in with like the ways I make money and the various tips that I have for blogging. I will start out by saying, and I always say this, as much as blogging seems like it's a thing that you just like randomly become good at and it randomly happens to you and you just like get all these followers on Instagram or YouTube or whatever platform that you're using, it is not like that at all. It's for people that are really obsessed with it, I think, because you're gonna have to wake up every single morning and like dedicate your life to trying to make it work, especially in the beginning. I overlooked a lot of things when I was first starting the blogging thing. I got very lucky in a lot of ways, and I also worked really hard. So we'll get more into that later, but that's just kind of like a disclaimer. No matter what background you're coming from or what path that you are trying to take, if you work for yourself, it's not for people that aren't disciplined, and obviously discipline is something that you can learn and practice and get better at. I want to start by saying that it's a lot of both motivation and discipline, which are two different things, but I'll explain all of that as we go. So first I'm going to start with a little timeline so you'll just know a little bit of background on me, especially if you're new and you don't follow me already, just to give you an idea of how long I've been doing this. So I started a blog at the end of 2014, and at that time I was studying politics and sociology at Texas A&M University, and so I was in the middle of like a college town in Texas. I had a very kind of clear set path that I was already going to be on, and that was to go to law school later. Around my junior year, I was just like, I don't think this is for me. Like I studied the political system and the justice system, and I was just very off-put by it and the realities that lie within those systems. So it wasn't necessarily something that I really wanted to get involved in at that point. So I wanted to get an internship working in fashion. I'd always wanted to live in Los Angeles. I just visited for the first time when I was like 12 years old, and I was like, oh my God, I need to live here. So I figured in college that was the perfect time to go out there and try something new, come out and learn about fashion and fashion PR, because it was something I've always been interested in, but it wasn't something that necessarily people around me in Texas were taking seriously. So I just like didn't know much about it. I started a blog in late 2014, my junior year of college, so I could have like a running resume for brands to look at if I wanted to apply for an internship, because they would always ask like, what is your point as a political science major? Like, why do you want to work for us? I started the blog and I started talking a lot about like my outfits, about beauty, like products and stuff like that, about healthy lifestyle, recipes that I was making myself in college, because a lot of my friends would ask me stuff like that anyway, so I just put it on a blog. When I first started, I didn't tell anybody that I started a blog. I was very embarrassed by it because it was kind of like weird for where I was, but I just wanted to have something that I could give to these brands to show them that I could like use social media to drive people to a website, which was my website, and I could like maintain kind of an online persona almost. So I just started it out of nowhere, just in my apartment in college. It was like 4 a.m. I just started a WordPress site for free, and I just like chose a random theme and I just started writing. I wrote an intro post or something, and I also wrote my first like recipe post that week. So that was 2014. 2015, like a couple months later, I ended up moving to California because I got an internship working PR and social media for a company called For Love and Lemons. So my junior year, 2015, spring semester, I spent in Los Angeles. In LA, I obviously like learned so much about Instagram marketing and things like that because I was running the Instagram for Love and Lemons. I wasn't running it, but I was taking a lot of the content and getting a lot of the influencers and stuff and gifting them and all of that. So it really opened my eyes to like the blogging world, because it wasn't something I had seen before. In Texas, we have a lot of bloggers, but they're not like necessarily girls with my personal style. Respect for those girls. There's so many girls like killing it in Texas in the blogging world, but I just didn't feel like that type of like vibe really resonated with me. So I was a little bit confused and like iffy when I first started, because I was like, well, like this isn't really me, but I was kind of like doing some of that stuff because that's like what what I had seen in Texas. LA really opened my eyes because there were so many different types of influencers here. And back in 2015, like when all of this was kind of still pretty new, people out in LA were like doing it really well. And so it gave me a lot of confidence in what I was doing, and it let me kind of like be able to develop my own voice and my own personal style, and that's kind of where that started. And I was out in LA spring and summer actually, so just kind of immersed myself in the blogging world. I wasn't taking like a ton of classes obviously because I was doing my internship and then just like an online class, so I had a lot of time to shoot and connect with other bloggers and just like really kind of start figuring out how these bloggers were doing what they were doing. So I spent a lot of time researching and all of this stuff, which we'll get to later, how I went about all of that. I moved back to Texas. I moved back to College Station. I was a senior at this point and one more year left. So I just like came back to school. I continued to do the blog. I was doing a lot of lifestyle content, a lot of like recipes and stuff like that. I found a local photographer, a wedding photographer at first. And then I found also a student who was had like a similar vibe to me, and she was like really cool. We became good friends and she would shoot me a lot and we would just like have fun creating content together. Again, when I moved back, because I had lived in LA at this point for like 6 months or so, people like were kind of less weirded out by me, and like I had like a little bit of like validation from working at For Love and Lemons and stuff, but still in college people were like, what the fuck are you doing? Like they would make fun of me a lot. They just didn't understand it, and like if people don't understand something, they're gonna like talk shit about it usually, because that's just what people do. And obviously that happening to me my entire life, I now know to like kind of delve in, like learn about things before I talk shit, so it's kind of a blessing in disguise to like experience that. That's another question I get asked a lot, is like, how did you deal with people like responding negatively to you doing this, and especially in the beginning when like you don't have a ton of followers and all this stuff. And I just ignored it, honestly. Like I wouldn't say it didn't affect me at all, but like I had gone through so much shit with girls in the past, and just like girls being awful to me, which is a whole nother subject I'm going to speak on soon. But that kind of taught me that like it doesn't matter. Like I lived through all those experiences, and so this one wasn't any different. And I also like had such a path that I was following, and I like knew what I wanted. I knew I loved to do the blogging thing, so I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. So I was studying still in college. I ended up graduating, surprisingly, because I spent all of my time, all of my free time, except for like maybe one night on the weekends and stuff, going out with my friends. I spent all my other time figuring out the blogging thing, researching blogging, putting posts up, seeing what worked for me, etc. And again, we'll talk about how I went about doing that in a second. 2016, I graduated from Texas A&M. I honestly was out of there so fast. I didn't walk for graduation or anything like that. I wanted to be out in LA and doing my thing immediately. So I ended up having my last day of classes, basically going home, packing up, and moving out to LA that next week. For me, LA is a place that inspires me. I feel very free here. The weather is like beautiful, and when I wake up in the morning, it gets me up, it gets me out of the house. So for me, as a person that works for myself, I wanted to put myself in a position where I would be productive. And there's such a great influencer community out here, so I really just wanted to be a part of that. So it was a big leap, and I was like, I'm going to LA. Like, I know this is right for me, this is what I'm doing. So I didn't really even second guess myself, I just did it. When I moved to LA, summer of 2016, I lived with another blogger, which was also great. We found each other through Instagram. She went to University of Texas, which is kind of close to Texas A&M, and we had a bunch of mutual friends. So we moved in together, and we just were like, all right, let's fucking go. Let's do this. So we kind of were starting at the same place, and it was nice to like be able to grow with someone. So I really immersed myself in that scene and that world here in Los Angeles. I worked jobs on the side. I was like a promo girl for like an energy drink, and I would go out and like do like the sampling and stuff like that at grocery stores, or like do events and like hand out the product. I also babysat, and I also did some freelance modeling. And then my parents agreed to help me with my rent and like expenses I just absolutely couldn't pay for the first little bit, which is such a blessing, because that means I didn't need to go get a full-time job. But I will say, I have a lot of girlfriends who did do full-time jobs and blogged, and they got it done, like, or they were in school like I was. When I was in college, I forgot to mention, I took about 18, 19 hours because I just like wanted to get that semester done with it and leave. So I was in class all day, every day, and I found a way to make the blogging thing work. It's just because I couldn't stop doing it. And so when I moved in with my roommate at the time, she had a full-time job, and she was the same. Like, she couldn't stop doing it. Like, she would go to work, and then like she would shoot all our stuff on the weekends. She was so dedicated, and it was such a good energy to be around too, honestly. At the beginning point, I will say, like 2016, 2017, most of 2018, I was working maybe 18 hours a day. I like not even over exaggerating at all. I was just like immersing myself, learning about stuff, like trying to figure out how to conduct a business, trying to figure out how to negotiate and hire photographers and hire graphic designers, learn graphic design myself, figure out how to shoot myself, figure out how Instagram worked, how to optimize myself on Instagram. I mean, like the list goes on and on. Like you have to Google everything. It's such a learning curve. Like even with brands, you know, like you get a job done and you think you're at the end, you're like, sick, let's do this. And then I had to like learn how to like make an invoice and then like chase a brand around for an invoice. And like there are so many not glamorous parts of the blogging thing that you just have to learn yourself. And by the way, Google is your best friend. That's another tip I'll talk about later, because I get so annoyed with people that reach out to me with like these very vague, like overarching questions where they want me to like figure out how they're gonna become a blogger. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I don't want to be like rude, but like I've been driven crazy by this job for the past 3.5 years or longer. I guess almost 5 years, because I'm so fucking hungry to learn more and to figure out how to make it work. And not once did I ever DM a blogger that was bigger than me and be like, hey, can you teach me how to be a blogger? Thanks. Like, no, I never did that. That never even occurred to me. Like, we'll get into that in a second. Anyways, so 2017, I started making a full-time salary. I'm not gonna say it was a great full-time salary, especially living in LA, it's very expensive. But it was enough to live, which was also like, that was such a cool moment for me. And also as a blogger, you get a lot of stuff for free. Here in LA, a lot of like brands will take you to like lunch and dinner, or like companies will let you come eat there for free if you post about them. So you get like this kind of cool lifestyle for pretty much free. Your cost of living isn't a ton. I wasn't like traveling or doing anything like that though. I wasn't buying myself really nice stuff, but it felt good to be providing for myself. 2018, last year, I started making enough money to like not worry about paying my rent. I was able to not travel a lot, but travel more, definitely like going to New York a couple times, going to Miami with my friends. Like we took a trip to, I think Mexico was last year. I started to have a little bit of fun. I wasn't making like the money I want to make. I still like am obviously pushing towards those goals, but I wasn't uncomfortable anymore. And I was able to just kind of relax a little bit without like paying rent and being like, oh my God, I'm gonna die seeing that money come out of my account. After I started making enough money, I was approached by management in 2018, and that absolutely changed everything for me, because no longer did I have to do all of this back-end work that you have to do when you first start, which is like reaching out to brands, figuring out how to reach out to brands, figuring out how to price yourself and how to negotiate, and what to expect from a brand, and the little tiny details that you need to talk about when it comes to your contract with a brand. Even communicating with brands sometimes can be very time consuming, I guess. And my management would step in and do a lot of that stuff for me. Also, another huge thing, I don't have to send invoices anymore, which was like half of my life, was like invoicing brands and chasing brands around for the payment that they owed me, which if you're a freelancer or a blogger, you totally understand where I'm coming from there. That's totally normal. Brands do it all the time. You just have to literally chase them around. And that was super helpful for me. So 2019 was like, this has been really the first year that I've been able to like travel to Europe and make that worth my while and not worry about money. I've been able to buy myself a couple nice things, which has been lovely. And I've been able to start working and looking to work on newer other projects that aren't directly related to the blog. And that's in large part because of my management. To clear up one management question right now, I'm not really sure about how to approach management. I don't know how that goes really. I haven't really done it. This is my first experience with a management team, and they've been great so far. I've been with them for about a year, but they approached me. I did talk to a couple different management agencies, and none of them were really like clicking with me. I didn't like what they were telling me. It kind of felt like they were a little bit greedy. And this management team, when I went out with them to lunch, I just asked them a million questions about like, okay, so how much, percentage do you take of my deals? Are you gonna take percentage of my deals that I already have right now before I sign with you? What about if I wanna leave? What about if you're not bringing me any deals at all? Like, what do I do? Like, I don't wanna be trapped. So I asked a million questions, and I wasn't afraid to like be a little bit aggressive with asking of questions. And then everything they said was like just fucking perfect. And I just loved their vibe. And they like thought it was totally cool that I was like trying to poke holes and like trying to find something wrong with them. And I didn't find anything wrong. And I've had such a great time with that. So I don't know how to reach out to management. I cannot answer that question for you. That's something that you can probably Google though. That's your first order of business. If that's something you want to know, Google it find it on Pinterest. Go look it up. Like, it's out there for you to find, I promise. How did I learn about how to be a vlogger? This is going to be an annoying fucking answer to you if you are a person who wants me to give you exact answers on how to do everything. So there are plenty of bloggers out there that have blogs all about how to be a blogger. I'm making a video like this because I just want to wrap up everything in one, so I have something to send to people when they ask me this question. But, and of course I always like sharing insight, but there are plenty of bloggers online, plenty of like PR companies and like websites in general that are really helpful to blogging, and I will tell you how to find them, and I will tell you to find all of these details. What did I do? When I first started blogging, I didn't know anything. Obviously, this was right in the beginning. Didn't know what platform I wanted to use. I didn't know how to buy a domain. I didn't know any of this stuff. And by the way, I learned it all as I went. So I started, Googled, best way to start a blog, or how to start a blog. And it brought me to an article about using WordPress versus using like Squarespace, I think. I don't know if Squarespace was even a thing. Oh, Blogger. WordPress or Blogger. And I saw more cases of people liking WordPress, so I was like, cool, I'll use WordPress. I went to WordPress. I saw you could buy a domain or get a free domain if you use WordPress.com, so I just like made my domain, and then I just suddenly had a blog. And then you just choose your theme. I chose a theme. And as I got better at it, I was like, all right, what do I need to do if I want my website to not be like mydomain.wordpress.com? And I found out you have to go to wordpress.org. And then I was like, all right, well, what does that mean? Because now you need a hosting server. What is a hosting server? Googled what is a hosting server. And this happened over the course of months, obviously. But you just learn as you go. No one knows what they're doing. It's a very comforting thing, for me at least, that no one knows what they're doing. So like every project I start, still now I'm like, okay, how do you start a nonprofit? I'm trying to get involved in that, and I have made so many mistakes. Had so many issues with like legal stuff and like wasting all this money starting a nonprofit, and then like being like, oh shit, I don't need to start a nonprofit yet. I need to like actually put this like social good campaign into the world. This is an example that kind of stuff is still happening to me now because I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm using the same tools that I used when I started blogging to do this as well. And it's very overwhelming. It's very scary, but not once am I going to like text or DM a blogger that is bigger than me or a nonprofit person that's bigger than me and be like, hey, so like, how did you make that? Let me know and get back to me immediately. I think part of it too is that I was so hungry for the answer that I didn't want to reach out to someone and wait for them to tell me. I just like wanted to figure it out right now. Research. Google is great. My biggest tip though for you in terms of researching blogging, especially if you're starting from the beginning, which by the way, if you're just starting, even if you're not just starting, myself included right now, I just would like to always consider myself a novice. So I would go on Pinterest, especially in the beginning, and type in like blogging tips. And all of these articles come up. I would read every single piece of information that I could get my hands on. From like how to create a MailChimp newsletter, to what are the 10 best widgets for people shopping on your site, to where are the best places to find free or really cheap themes. How do you modify a theme on your WordPress to like fit various parts of the site that you want? How do you make an about page? How do you get an image size small enough to put in your sidebar? These are all articles you can find on Pinterest. I spent a lot of my time just immersing myself and learning everything that I could possibly learn, like so much information going in. And I would, you know, once you do that and once you go on Pinterest, that's where you're gonna find a lot of these blogs and websites that are resources for bloggers. And you'll find a bunch. Like, I don't know all of them. Maybe you'll find something that I don't know, actually. You'll probably find a lot of things that I don't know. So you need to research for yourself, because that's the kind of thing that builds a solid foundation for you. And that's the people that do that are the kind of people that become really good at this kind of thing, because again, you just have to be a self-starter. And feel free to ask people questions. Like, I'm not saying never ask questions, but I get so many questions a day that are like, hey, can you explain to me like how you became, like basically asking all the information I'm giving you now. And this video is going to be like, what, 30 minutes long of me telling you this? Like, I can't type all that out on Instagram. And again, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off still in a lot of ways. I really don't have a lot of time to dedicate to teaching every single person how exactly I became a blogger. And honestly, I don't think that I need to do that. Like, the kind of blogger that I am is I share outfits and I share beauty stuff, and I try to share motivation to make people feel good about themselves and teach people how they can be like the best versions of themselves, just by going off of the ways that I'm learning how to do that. I didn't become a blogger to teach other bloggers how to be bloggers. So I just like can't say that enough. Again, doing stuff like this lets me like really put everything in one video and explain it all. But my biggest tip, I think, and when it comes to the research part of it that I've been talking about this whole time, is no one knows what they're doing. Jump in somewhere and learn absolutely everything that you can. Like, once you start learning information, you're gonna put yourself on a path that becomes more clear. If you don't really know what you're doing yet, it does not hurt to absolutely just jump in and like start somewhere. Like, it's gonna be very overwhelming. It is very overwhelming. I'm still very overwhelmed, but start somewhere. Like, just do it. Just start learning, figure it out. Like, trust yourself, you're gonna figure it out. And again, also remember that no one knows what they're doing most of the time, so you're not alone. Other ways besides Pinterest and Google. YouTube is a great resource for learning things about blogging, or Instagram or whatever. Right now, because I'm getting into YouTube more, my entire like watch later folder is all about like growing subscribers, YouTube algorithm, how it works, how to increase watch time. Like, any video I can watch about YouTube, I'm watching right now. I haven't gone to like any seminars or anything for it, but I'm trying to learn a lot about it as much as possible. So I spend my evenings doing that. Other things that I did, especially in the beginning, are going to conferences and attending conferences that are specifically for blogging or influencing or building a business. So I did a Create and Cultivate conference when that first started. I went to one in Los Angeles and I went to one in Dallas. And that was really helpful just to like network and meet with people. And also, of course, like the more friends you make in the blogging world, the more help you're gonna have, because you can all get together and like talk and like, you know, figure out things together and share information, which is very helpful. So things like conferences, things like meeting up with bloggers that are maybe your size, or your friends that are bloggers or influencers or whatever, that's an unbelievable resource to have. So I highly recommend doing that. The way I found blogger friends was going to events or following people on Instagram, and like we had followed each other for a while and just like kind of created a dialogue. Moving to LA, there's so many bloggers here, so it's just pretty easy to get in contact with them. I would say, like, especially when I first moved here, the majority of my friends were bloggers, because again, I became obsessive and I jumped into the blogger world. I mean, I was just so in it, and I still pretty much am, but I have friends that are not bloggers now too. Another thing that you can do when you start putting out content, so whether you're writing a blog post or doing a YouTube video or whatever, you're gonna need to remember that you have to be very, very persistent and very, very consistent. I struggle with consistency, but I do not struggle with being persistent. I think about improving in this area of my life and my work life basically all day, every day, and I'm not giving up ever. Like, I'm just not doing that. I can't imagine not doing this and not working for myself and not like wanting to put these kind of messages out into the world and then also find a way to monetize them. So you're gonna have to do this for a very long time. It doesn't just happen. Sometimes it does happen to people where they overnight are like Instagram famous or something. I mean, I wouldn't say overnight, but a lot of the times when you think someone is an overnight success, they're actually not at all, and they've been doing it for a very long time. So keep that in mind. I wake up every morning, again, with the research thing. I'm always reading new articles. My management also, like for everyone that they manage, they send out a newsletter like once or twice a week with the top 5 articles that we all need to read regarding topics like YouTube, TikTok, even Instagram, all that stuff. So everyone is still learning, and like you're never above learning about this stuff. And especially when you're first beginning, like you need to learn everything. So just start somewhere, again, like I said. Once you start creating content though, and putting content out into the world, which by the way, I would start right now. You don't need to know everything to do it. Put it out there. Of course, there are so many things I put out on the internet that I'm like, ew. Like, why did I do that? Why did I post that photo? Why did I post that like article? What was I thinking? But like, it got someone's eyes and someone's attention, and that pushed me forward, and it kept pushing me forward. And you do things that aren't unbelievable, especially in the beginning, and you just continue to do them because that's how this works. If you're really nervous about it, if you're not like wanting to share something, share it anyways. That's how this works. That's how you learn. So another part of like research, I would say, is, again, this is going to be something that you're going to need to look up, but using things like Google Analytics, using things like your insights on Instagram or YouTube, figuring out how to use them, one, which again, there are plenty of resources to teach you that, how to install them on your website, It's complicated sometimes, but I have faith in you can figure it out. Use those resources and see what's working. See what times you're posting on your blog, what days you're posting on your blog that are working, or on your YouTube channel or on your Instagram. See what kind of content people like. Do people like when you post like long captions? Do they like when you post long blog posts? What kinds of posts do they like? Are they liking when you're like showing them a place to eat or showing them a new outfit or whatever? Use your own data and your own posts to figure out what is suiting your audience and also what is helping you grow your audience. And there are so many ways to read Google Analytics, but you're gonna have to be like smart, okay? Like you're gonna have to like really think about, all right, what are the data points that I need to look for? Like on YouTube, a big data point is watch time. And the way that I learned that is, it kind of seemed obvious to me, but I did research and figure out like what is associated with the YouTube algorithm, like what gets you seen by more people, and a lot of people said it's watch time. So of course I'm like, okay, how do I make my watch time better? And then I look up, how do you make your watch time better? So using your own data, that's why it's kind of so important to start, because you can use your own content as a point of reference for what's gonna work for you. So definitely start doing things, start putting content out as soon as you can. Even if it's not your best ever, like put it out. Get it out there so you can start learning from it. Let's talk about making money blogging. And I'm gonna try to be concise with this. I know I said that in the beginning, and this might be a really long video already. The first way I'm gonna share is not the biggest way that I make money, but it's a way that I was able to start relatively early with. So it's called affiliate marketing. And basically it is driving sales to other websites, a website like Revolve or Nordstrom or Urban Outfitters, whatever. And it's a way for you to like share a unique link on a product that maybe you like, that you share with your audience, and your audience can click on it. And depending on what structure you use, some platforms allow you to get paid per click. So every time an audience member clicks on the product, you get like a couple cents or something. Or there's ones that are commission based. Like let's say someone clicks on it. If someone buys that product within 30 days or something, you get a commission on that sale. So the two big ones that I know of and that I've used are ShopStyle and RewardStyle. I started using ShopStyle in the pretty early beginning because I had seen it on a Pinterest article on how to make money blogging. So I signed up for ShopStyle. At that time, you didn't need to be approved to use ShopStyle. Everyone could kind of use ShopStyle, which is why I used it versus RewardStyle in the beginning. ShopStyle was pay-per-click. I'm not really sure if they're the same anymore. I know these affiliate marketing networks are kind of changing to suit current times, so I'm not really sure, but that's how it was when I first started. So I would use ShopStyle links in my blog, and I would use them, what else did I use them for? Oh, I would use them on Pinterest too. So I'd like post a product to Pinterest that I really like, and I had my ShopStyle link connected. And like one time I had this one pin of a dress go viral, and I like made it like $100 or $200 a month relatively early doing that. So that's like a lucky thing that happened. But it was cool to start learning it and start figuring out how to use affiliate networks to make money, because that's a part of how you make money blogging. A little further in, I applied to RewardStyle, and the first time I applied, they did not accept me. And then the second time I applied, when I moved out to LA actually, they did accept me. And RewardStyle is different. It is a commission-based structure, so you're gonna post on your blog or whatever. They're gonna pay you a commission rate that's set by the brand or whatever company that you're working with. So like if I link through Revolve, Revolve will pay like 12% of the purchase. And then like Nordstrom sometimes will pay more or less. And both of those platforms have an unbelievable amount of information for you to access once you are on their platforms. So they both have blogs, and they both have so many posts about how to optimally use their platform because they want you to be successful using their platform. They both also, later on down the road, if you're doing well, do offer sponsored posts to bloggers. They kind of like are a mediator between a brand and a blogger for a lot of sponsored posts. And as a person that uses RewardStyle a lot, I get a lot of my sponsored posting now through RewardStyle. Which brings me to the second way to make money, which is kind of the big way, is sponsored posts. Sponsored posting is very difficult to navigate. It's hard to figure out when you go from a brand gifting you and posting for them to when you start asking them for money for the post. So in the beginning especially, I would accept gifting on brands that you like, don't just like accept from anybody. Brands that you like, I would get your gifting, and I would absolutely kill it when it comes to creating content for that brand and posting for that brand. go hard for the brand and prove yourself an asset. That's what you're trying to do, is prove that you can sell things on your Instagram or your blog or your YouTube or whatever for them, because that's why they're going to pay you in the end. So it's a very, very difficult thing to navigate. It's very difficult to figure out when you start charging. For me, knowing the back end data, knowing on ShopStyle that like if I post something and it sells this many units of it, that's when I kind of started to realize like, okay, I probably need to get paid if I'm like selling this much stuff for this brand and I'm tracking this one and this is going well. So I'm probably selling stuff for other brands that I'm posting too. Using that logic, I started asking for money. And again, this is where your other blogger friends can come in, because like you guys, for us, we kind of made an arbitrary rule and we were like, okay, I feel like if we charge $10 per 100 followers, we made it up. I'm not even sure where that rule came from. But we all kind of started going off of that rule once we hit about 10K or so on Instagram specifically. But sometimes brands don't want to pay that. Sometimes it was too much, and still I get undercut by brands so much when it comes to that. And that's when you decide, okay, do I do this for free? Is it worth it somewhere down the line for me to do this for free? Once you start getting more and more followers, the line starts to blur a little bit, because I'm like, all right, well, if Farfetch wants to gift me something high end, like obviously I will do that for free. I will still do that for free. Like if you're gonna give me something really expensive, then yeah. But if X company wants to give me stuff for free and wants me to post, and I know that they work with this other girl who's a blogger, but it's because she worked for gifting with them first, so like maybe I should try gifting with them first. There's a lot of like that kind of logic that goes on where you're not really sure. And again, like I said, no one knows what they're doing. This is like the wild, wild west still. We're kind of getting, I feel like people are getting more structured about it now, but it's hard to price yourself. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna throw out numbers to people, and sometimes they're gonna stick, sometimes too quickly where you could have given them a higher price, and sometimes they're not gonna stick, and it's gonna be a very confusing and difficult time. And by the way, you're not alone. Everyone goes through that. Now I have management who does that for me, which is a blessing, and they are able to ask for a lot more than I would normally ask for myself, because it's just like weird to price yourself out, and I get like a little bit, not shy, but like nervous about it. And so I understand that. And again, so many articles on Pinterest, so many articles on Google. Jump and dive into that. If you want to know the answer on how to price yourself, you gotta arm yourself with some information, go look it up, go research it a little bit, and then also try it out. You have to try it, which I feel like is like the two #1 tips I'm having, is like arm yourself with info, do your research, and then fucking go for it and just see what happens and learn from your mistakes or learn from the things that you did well. A third way to make money: creating content and or modeling. So this is something I do much less, especially in the content creation thing. My roommate, who I told you about before when I first moved to LA, she did content creation all the time, and she made so much money doing that. It was her and her photographer were like a little duo team, and brands would send them their products, and then they would create content and have like maybe create a lookbook for the brand or create imagery for their website or for their social. So she would get paid sometimes money to post and create content. I've been in that boat before where I have created content for a brand, or a photographer friend like hired me on as a model, and we worked together to create content for their lookbooks or their websites. So if you're really like aesthetic and you enjoy creating content, maybe you're a photographer as well, maybe you shoot lifestyle imagery, like that's a way to make money as a blogger or influencer too, is to create content for brands for them to use. And that's a pretty lucrative way to make money doing all of this. And I will say the fourth way that I am most familiar with, I know there's probably a lot more ways to make money now, but we're gonna end on way number 4, is physical product sales, or like sales of service. So you'll see a lot of fitness bloggers create like a meal plan and sell it to their followers. You'll see girls create presets and sell that to their followers. You'll see girls collaborate with brands to create a product, whether it be like a swimsuit or a piece of jewelry, and sell those products. And that's kind of like where everyone, at least what I would assume, is where everyone's trying to go, because that's where a lot of the money is. There are some bloggers who do it really, really well. Obviously, Danielle Bernstein from We Wear What kills it. She's created a service and a ton of products of her own, collaborations, things like that. Also, another blogger who's absolutely killing it right now is Sivan Ayala. I don't know how to say her last name, but killing it. She's created a couple products now that are all her own, and also done a number of collaborations. So obviously products are very intimidating, and it's kind of one of those things that I feel like you do once you have been blogging for a little bit, just because, or you can start right now. I'm not saying this isn't a hard rule, but it's nice to like get an idea of your audience before you start selling things to your audience that you physically made. So like for me, I can go on my reward style data and look like, okay, things like lip gloss sell really well for me, or like t-shirts, anything basics, jeans sell really well for me. Like you can start looking at this stuff and trying to take into account that like this is what your audience wants. And that can help you move forward in a direction of product sales. I've dabbled in it a little bit personally. Like I made a t-shirt for myself that says a woman does not have to be modest in order to be respected. And I got so many comments on my Instagram when I wore that, so many questions about it, that I just created like a little capsule of those t-shirts, and I made like 100 or 200 of them, and then I just sold them and just like figured it out, which was a whole nother learning curve too. And it was really interesting to go through that process as a person that would like to create product in the future. It was like a little mini way for me to start learning about that, which was cool. So it's experimenting, it's very overwhelming, it's very scary, especially to make like a physical product and then like put it in a box and send it to someone who paid their good money for it. It's just like the craziest. So product for me is definitely like in the near future, but it's one of those things that's gonna be like really surreal and like a whole different ballgame than like traditional blogging, influencing, all that stuff. So that's the ways I make money doing blogging. I feel like I probably left a million things out of this video, but I do want to end it because I don't want to be talking forever. But I think my final like parting words with y'all to summarize are like, if you want to do this and this is something that you absolutely can see yourself pursuing and being consistent with all the time, then do it. And I would start now. Like don't overthink it, don't do it, whatever. Like as you go, start learning more, but you need to be hungry for this knowledge and you need to be a self-starter. So wake up in the morning, give yourself some to-dos, put on your to-do list, like spend an hour, spend 2 hours learning about blogging. Like that kind of time is absolutely invaluable, to be honest. Like immersing yourself and learning is so underrated, I feel like, because you don't need to be doing these actionable things all the time. Like reflecting, learning, studying what you already have out there, studying your content you already have. All of this stuff is very, very, very important when it comes to blogging. And it's arguably just as important as taking action. I think they're both about the same. So you're gonna need to do both. Learn everything that you can, but also know that it's okay to start in the middle of your learning too, because that's a form of learning in itself. I hope this wasn't like an intimidating video. I hope it didn't like talk people out of doing the blogging thing. If you really wanna do it, I think there's space for you in here. In this blogging world, but that's what I mean by in here. I also think that just as a random point, just a random comment, random advice that no one asked for, I would say that I think it's always smart to have a website. It's always smart to have a blog, because if you have a domain name and a website, you own that, rather than owning like your Instagram channel or whatever. Like you don't own those things technically. So it's something that can't really be taken away from you. I definitely use my blog as a hub. I know blogging necessarily in a traditional way isn't as popular anymore, but I do know that using my blog as a hub and using it as a place for people to go and like click on my affiliate links and stuff, and making it really well mobily optimized is also another tip I have that no one asked for. Definitely do the blog thing. And I know YouTube is really intimidating and it takes a lot of time, and that's something I'm running against, or I'm running into right now, is that like filming and all that takes so much time, and editing, learning how to edit. You'll know where I'm going with this, researching and actually doing it. I'm in the middle of that right now. I'm so new to the YouTube thing, I feel like a noob. I would definitely look into starting a YouTube channel, because I think that yes, Instagram is still big and yes, you should be on Instagram, but diversifying is not a mistake, I think. And I think that setting yourself up to have like a solid run at this would include having a website and an Instagram and a YouTube channel, if you can spring doing all of those things. And of course, there are plenty of ways to do that on a budget, which again, yes, you guessed it, you can look up on the internet. You can look that up on Pinterest or Google or on YouTube. And there are plenty of ways and plenty of people who will show you the ways of how to do that on a budget. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I hope I didn't come off as too much of a bitch being like, don't ask me a million questions. Because I don't mean don't ask me questions, just like I can't figure it out for you, even if I wanted to figure this out for you. So all I can tell you is what worked for me at that time, and obviously things have changed, but I think the general principles of always learning and also just doing it, I think those things will probably hold true for a lot of the things that anyone does in their life. But I hope you did learn some like kind of little tips and little points that will help you start or help you feel a little bit more confident about yourself, even if your confidence only comes from the fact that no one else knows what they're doing either, which is a huge point for me. Like I said, it made me very confident to actually understand that and know it. Just know that we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to figure it out. Even people that are way bigger than me are still like constantly on a learning curve, constantly trying to figure it out. Anyways, thank y'all so much for watching this video. I hope it didn't bore you too much. If you would like to follow me on Instagram, my handle is @PeytonSartin. Make sure that you like this YouTube video if you like informative videos like this. Make sure to subscribe because I'm working really hard over here, okay? You can visit my website, hustleandhalcyon.com, if you want like a reference for like what my blog looks like right now, just because we talked about that so much. And I will see you guys in the next video.